know, isn't it crazy?
It
Hello,
is.
everybody. Welcome to a discussion of Howling Dark. This is book 2 in the Sun Eater series, and I'm excited to be here today chatting with this crew we have here who are helping me to explore this incredible series that I've enjoying thoroughly. We are going to begin spoiler free for a little bit, and I'm just going to get the impressions from my four guests, their general spoiler free impressions about Howling Dark, where they would rate it in this series, and then I'm going to give my thoughts as someone who has only read books 1 and 2. I also did read The Lesser Devil, so I did do that. I was instructed to do so by Dylan and Jakob, and I did my homework, so we'll talk a little bit about that one. We'll keep the spoilers out of that, though, because Janny Wurts has not read The Lesser Devil, I think. Is that still
You
true?
can spoil it. It won't spoil the story.
Okay. I don't think it would spoil anything.
No,
Anyway, so.
no, not anything. I mean, this author has so many complexities and layers.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would still see plenty in it, so don't worry about it.
Okay. And this author basically tells you how it ends right from the start anyway. So,
True.
Yeah. So, which is wonderful artistry. All right. That all said, let's start out with our spoiler-free thoughts. And we're going to start with the wonderful, brilliant Janny Wurts, one of my favorite authors. And I'm so thrilled to be getting your thoughts on this series. But let's get into your thoughts right now for Howling Dark.
I rate it not a bedtime story. Totally not.
advice.
The first time I read this, I had such nightmares. It was just beyond belief. So for that reason, it is not my favorite book in the series, but it was an absolutely necessary installment, and it had nothing to do with the quality of the writing or the quality of the storytelling. It's simply that horror hits me in the gut very, very hard. And the way this story unwinds, the unwinding of the horror elements just is relentless. It does not quit.
Wow.
You think, oh, that was really viscerally rough, and then it gets even more viscerally rough, and the limits are off for the imagining as to what can happen when you combine man and machine.
Yeah.
He really dug into that in a way that you can't read it and not be frightened.
Yeah. Yeah. Considering the era we're in now, right? I mean, there's some serious relevance to things that are in the air.
Serious relevance.
Yeah.
Here's a direct quote from here: men made stupid by the madness to serve their designs. Men made stupid by the machines, to serve their designs. Men made stupid by the machines to serve their designs. Boy, how apt is that right this moment in time?
That does seem actually quite appropriate to us right now. Of course, I've been very public about my reservations about the use of AI in creative realms. So I definitely resonate with that one. So
you don't like AI, Philip? That shocks me.
I mean, I like AI in certain realms, but not as a replacement for human creativity.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I'll go you one deeper on that one. I don't think the planet is replaceable.
Yeah.
Even the good uses that it could be put to, it is not worth the cost.
I think
for
you're
the
right.
energy cost. Sorry, but I just don't buy that humanity has a right to destroy everything to make itself better or greater or whatever it thinks it's doing.
Well, and that is so relevant to Howling Dark, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Totally.
At the core of this story. So, yeah, great. I can't wait to get into spoilers here. But first, we're going to get Dylan's spoiler-free thoughts about Howling Dark. What are your thoughts, Dylan?
Well, I loved it. Pretty much I loved every Sun Eater book. So ranking-wise, it's around the middle. But I loved getting out of the Empire for the first time, and Hadrian just coming face-to-face with all the peoples not from his Empire and be like, just such a culture shock for him. It was really fun. And then I also love when someone's struggling with this series, getting their reaction to the end of this book, where things all come together and usually by the time someone finishes this book, if they're a bit and ah, they fall in love. So I love what this does for the reader as well, if they haven't been having the best time. So I loved it from Empire of Silence, page 1.
Okay. And where would you, if you do this sort of thing, you don't have to, but if you rank the series, where would you rank this in the series for you?
4.
4. Okay.
4 or
All right.
5. 4 or 5.
Okay. Wow. That means I got a lot of good books coming up here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. All right, Jacob, how about you? What are your spoiler-free thoughts on Howling Dark?
This is this book is special to me within the series. I don't know if I would rank it as low as 4 or 5. I know that there are books that come after it in the series that are really remarkable and incredible at what they're able to accomplish, but this for me is when the series started to become something so much more than what Empire of Silence was giving me. I loved Empire of Silence, but Howling Dark to me was truly astounding. And it's also kind of the beginning of the exploration of how far can you stretch mankind into that realm of technology before mankind becomes unrecognizable and you can no longer label it as mankind. And that was one of my favorite explorations in this book and throughout the rest of the series. So I absolutely love that. And have to echo Dylan in the inverse that anytime somebody says they like Empire of Silence, I get really excited because I go, you're going to love Howling Dark.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. And how about the senior Minton here? John, what are your thoughts on this? And I'd like to know if you want to share where you would rank it in the series.
I think for me, it's right around, I'm going to say 4.
Okay.
I'm going to say
Same as
4
Dylan. Yeah.
because there's just some coming up that I when I read this one, it blew my hair back. I was blown away. Like there's so many things I love about this. We really get into, as we were already with Empire of Silence, we were doing some genre blending epic fantasy, space opera, but it's like we just start to layer it on even more going forward with the horror, the cosmic horror elements, with the touch of noir cyberpunkish feel aesthetics like we had in Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, and we just start layering just one thing on another that I love and have appreciated for so many years. And then that ending, when I hit the ending of this book, I was like, are we not entertained? Like, who's not going to pick up book 3? Who would stop here? Like the philosophy, the themes, the interesting arc and exploration of characterization and where they're going and why they want to go there and where they get sidetracked because of what happens. So many times we have a destination in mind for ourselves. We have dreams and desires and what we want to do. And Hadrian started off in Empire of Silence as quite the idealist looking for adventure. And by the end of this book, you're seeing his journey is going somewhere very, very different. And I really love those kind of explorations character-wise. And when I read, I fully expected this to be towards the top of my ranking list. But as I went on in the series, it just gets harder and harder and harder to put it up there.
That's what I mean. I think Howling Dark probably does rank around 4 or 5 to me, but it hurts me to say that because
it hurts to say it. Yeah.
Did you catch the reference to Philip K. Dick? And the Dreams of Electric Sheep? Yeah, because when they met the golem, her name was Ray, or it was the same as the movie. What was her name? I wrote it down. Eva. They called her Eva.
Okay.
I went, bingo, that stuck out.
Yeah.
So many literary references, it drives you crazy.
There was a lot of Blade Runner in like the beginning there. Yeah.
Speaking of, just want to, this is a great comment here, agreeing with you, and you can never go wrong reading Ursula Le Guin. But this is in reference to what you were saying, Janny, about the need to see nature as kin. Absolutely agree with that, Christopher. Well said. So, yeah. And speaking of references, so I'm going to give my spoiler-free thoughts here on Howling Dark. As somebody who's not read, I'm the only person who has not read the rest of the series. So my ranking is pretty easy at this point. It's going to be Howling Dark number 1 and Empire Silence number 2.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Empire Silence, but this is where I feel like Christopher Ruocchio just goes for it in a way that's incredible. But I do want to talk about these references because you're absolutely right, Janny. There are some really great references in here. You've got, of course, Christopher Marlowe being the playwright who wrote Dr. Faustus and Tamburlaine and so on. And really the prominent theme in his plays is ambition. Mm-hmm. And you really get to see how that theme of ambition is so important and relevant to Hadrian Marlowe, but to humanity in general. And that goes back to this idea of the merger between humanity and machine. So that's a big thing in there. There's references to Dante's Inferno all over the place.
All over the place.
And Borgossos especially, but man, it's just, it's pervasive. Paradise Lost. There are certain figures here who actually resemble Satan in Paradise Lost, which is an iconic character. Kubla Khan. There's, of course, Book of the New Sun continues to be, I think, an important influence.
Did you catch the black shirt with the paisley lining? That's all the cover of the Book of the New Sun.
Which you're familiar with, of course, because Don Yates is the
black
artist.
Cape with a paisley lining. I'm going, wow, he took everything. He tied everything.
Yep. So just, I mean, it's all over the place.
Philip, I had to ask you, what about Hrothgar the Raven?
Oh, I love it, of course. Yeah.
So where was the reference?
Beowulf reference.
You probably know that. You probably know the reference.
So Hrothgar being the king of the Danes in Beowulf, you know. So yeah, I mean that the fact that he named that Hrothgar just made me so happy.
There we go. We did the obligatory Beowulf.
Yeah,
reference.
and it didn't take long. 12 minutes, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I figured we'd dust it off and get it done.
I appreciate that very much. So that's something that I love as a reader and as somebody who appreciates. You don't have to have read all those things to appreciate this story, but it's fun. It's really fun.
The thing that I love, and I'm so sorry if I just broke in on you, Philip.
Go for it, John.
The thing that I love about all of these things that you point out, Alighieri and Marlowe, and yes, this gives us little Easter eggs of Ridley Scott and Philip K. Dick and all these people that we're very, very familiar with if we're genre readers and fans. But the love letter to story doesn't stop there. He goes after Marlowe and Alighieri and all these others, which just, to me, elevates all of the genre references as well and shows the importance and the exploration that they can achieve as well when we're looking back at what stories meant to us and how it hangs on to us as a culture, even now that we've gone far-flung into the galaxy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, all the myths. Charon was the pilot who landed to the land of death, and that was the machine that took them to the Sojourner ship. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't stop. Did you know what blew my mind on the second reread was the frightening depth of how he explored the twisting of mankind into machine.
Yes.
But also he throws a reverse mirror on that I missed going in, because what the Chantry had to do to repress that.
Uh-huh.
And he describes it as the lidless eye of the Empire.
Yeah.
Sauron.
Yeah, there you go. This Lord of the Rings
and
in
the
there.
Chantry was downright buggering evil. It was as bad or worse than the machines. And so the angles of view that he throws into the central issues of this are multiplicity of them.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And he doesn't come out of it saying this is good and this is bad. He just keeps throwing you angles of view that said the ethic is what holds it stable. And if you don't have it, what becomes of the ethic when you don't have it? Because you have to stiffen the law that says you can't do this somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And what lines are you going to cross? And they are utterly inhumane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, here I have my friend Mick Scarfield that we were just talking about all the literary references, and I was actually messaging with Mick Scarfield about that earlier today. So good that you're here, Mick Scarfield.
And he has a list.
There's Brian.
There is no Arathon. One
No
star.
Arathon. That would have been a copyright infringement,
Yeah.
Brian. So yeah, we couldn't do that.
He doesn't know it existed, so.
Yeah. So yeah, and just to keep it spoiler free a little longer, other themes that I think are definitely just woven into this story, in addition to the merging of humanity and the machine and ambition being a huge one and applicable to more than just Hadrian as a Marlowe, who's there's the reference. He, by the way, of course, he's not really a descendant of Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe died before he was 30 and never had any kids, as far as we know. But of course, the history's been, pretty convoluted. Yeah. So
they're pretty serious about counting it.
Yep. But that's what happens. We know that that's what happens. I mean, kings in medieval times drew their lineages back to gods and heroes and whatnot. So it's actually it fits, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's also, I think, some other really good themes that just have some nice interplay with the ones we've already talked about. There's the class gap here because a lot of these enhancements and the potential for manipulation of genetics and human bodies. This is stuff that only the wealthy get, the 1%ers here out in space. It's an awful shame that we go out into space and we duplicate our social hierarchies that we have here out there as well. But you see that having huge repercussions because is someone like Hadrian even human anymore? And somebody, I think it was Jakob or somebody mentioned that idea already, is like, at what point are you no longer human after all these enhancements and genetic, messing around and whatnot? And because we have the ability to do this stuff to our bodies, should we do this stuff? And what are the repercussions? So there's a class issue going on throughout this. I think that's really fascinating. And the idea of, look, immortality is something we've been writing about since Gilgamesh, right? And the human obsession with immortality, but through the manipulation through genes and mechanical or technical enhancements and whatnot. I also think that empathy and compassion get woven into this in some interesting ways. Because you have. There's the big background to all this, and we're just starting to really get a feel for how this conflict is, but between the humans and the Cielsen. And Hadrian is somebody that he fascinates me because he does have some, I think, some compassion. It is coming from, you can't just say that he's trying to be, he's totally ambitious in a way that's selfish. Like, I think there is some actual compassion and that motivates him as well. And you may say that in some ways he's naive because of that, but that's a big theme in here. Is you have these apex predators who are colliding across the universe, across this galaxy, and is empathy and compassion? Are these even possible between these two apex predators that are now clashing? And that's a cool thing he's setting up with that. I think the nature of consciousness and what is fundamental to humanity and faith, all these things are woven into this. So I just think it's just incredible. Do you guys want to comment on any of these themes or anything else non-spoiler before we jump into the spoilers?
Yeah, there's just so many spoilers I'm trying not to say is why I'm making faces.
Yeah. I will say the themes of faith start early on in this series. Those pathways that we're following. Hadrian is starting off as this idealist, and then these themes of empathy, these themes of him starting off thinking he could make waves and make change to end this centuries-long war, and then this journey that takes him, let's just say, somewhere else while we're in non-spoiler territory. But I mean, it's so layered, so rich, so many things that are going on within the tapestry of this series.
Yeah.
It's curious that you didn't mention the theme of hubris yet.
Oh yeah, well, ambition, and then
Hubris and ambition, because
yeah,
we have a character that started out very, very idealistic and very inflexibly shaped and molded by his caste. He has not gotten rid of that. He still regards people as plebeians or this, that. But what interested me about this book is you really begin to see the slipping and the loss of innocence here.
Yeah.
You really begin to see where his cause begins to blind him. And you really begin to see some of the flaws in his nature come to the fore.
yeah,
He always despised the way his father handled things. But in the beginning of this book, you see him using some of his father's techniques to manipulate people.
Yep.
You see him seizing hold of the story is more important than the facts, and bending the facts to fit what he wants to accomplish. You see him doing little things where he's stepping over people's rights, even his best friend's rights. And they're small things, but they're there. You can see his perception of his friends not matching what his friends are actually saying. And the little tiny things that he tells himself, well, I should have done it this way, or I shouldn't have kept that sword. It was rightfully belonged to this person who saved his life, but I kept it anyway, and that sort of glossing over and flicking it aside and stepping past. You begin to see around the corners of his character in a fascinating way, because you still want to believe in his cause and his compassion, that he wants to make peace. But how far is he willing to bend the line to get there?
I think Hadrian's age plays a really big role in his change of identity as well. Not
Yes.
just his exploration outside of the society that he was raised in, but he is older in this book. There is a bit of a time jump, and I do love about Ruocchio's writing that it is true to life. I can look at a younger Hadrian and see flaws in him that I recognize in my younger self, and I'm sure as I grow older I will recognize flaws in Howling Dark Hadrian or Demon in White Hadrian, and so on and so on and so on. And I really love a writer who is able to put that self-awareness in his own character of having a true human level of growth as they age.
Yeah.
Looking back on my high school peers, they don't so much as change as intensify as they get older.
yeah.
They intensify what they already were, and you can really see that in this character.
Absolutely.
I said earlier that the Book of the New Sun influence is still evident, but I will also say that Hadrian is far more relatable to me than Severian ever was.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, far more relatable as a human, as a person, as a complex person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and as I said in our last discussion, there would be no Hadrian without Severian, but I like Hadrian more.
Yeah. As being on a little bit grayer, I totally recognize like what you're talking about. It's like I never wanted to grow up to be my dad, and now I see him in the mirror. And as Hadrian gets older and he starts to assume this responsibility and this leadership role that takes off in this book, he has to step up and do what's right and makes decisions and make calls, and he starts to see his father in that as he moves on.
Yeah.
And it's those schisms that you're talking about in classism, Dr. Chase, whereas and where are we losing our humanity by attaching ourselves to machine? That's a bit of an answer, isn't it, to this class system? These Palatines that are so genetically manipulated to live these centuries and be these leaders and make all these decisions and have this upper class society. Well, how can we stay equal to that? How can we function amongst that? Maybe we would have to augment ourselves a little bit to just get a little bit of that. So everything builds on top of each other. Everything dovetails quite well, quite amazingly.
Yeah.
All right, Dylan or Jacob, any more spoiler-free thoughts before we dive into spoilers? I feel like we're getting there, or anyone else, Janny or John as well. Any final spoiler-free thoughts?
I had one small thought that's really not very significant, but like you were talking about Dad and Janny, about how he kind of embodies his father a little bit. I loved the way that he did that. In the first book, there's a lot of Hadrian talking about using his crooked smile or using his more political smile, and he has different smiles for different occasions to kind of move different arguments in a conversation that's very politically motivated and strange. And he uses his dad's voice as almost like a tool in his toolbox. That he doesn't recognize that he's doing it, but he does do it. And there's like a implication subconsciously where he'll use that booming voice and go, "Oh wow, that worked. Okay, I kind of see why my dad did that."
Yeah, Alistair Marlowe will never get Dad of the Year, but
No.
he was pretty effective in certain realms. We'll give him that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order before we dive headlong into spoilers?
Read this series.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely. If you haven't read, I'm enamored with the series at this point. I really enjoyed Empire of Silence, but I had a blast with this one, with Howling Dark. So, and you guys are telling me it's not even your top one. So,
No.
Gets better.
holy
No.
cow!
It was when I read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. This is your warning then. If you're in the chat right now, or if you're in Team Replay, this is where we're going to start talking spoilers for just Empire Silence and Howling Dark. Let's do a quick, before we get into Howling Dark spoilers, I'll keep it spoiler free. I did enjoy the novella that I was assigned by my good friends here. Which is the Lesser Devil, which is a Crispin story.
Yes.
I don't think it's entirely spoilery to say that there's a sister now, a Marlowe sister, who appears after Hadrian is gone. She doesn't really know Hadrian the way Crispin did, but so a more mature Crispin. And I do agree with you guys, Jacob, and I think Dylan as well, who are on Team Crispin. And I'm not sure I'm completely on your team, but I do think that this Crispin is far more likable than the one we had in Empire Silence. But he's older and he's more mature. He's less of a meathead, honestly. So that's the reason.
But here's a Crispin that never left Alistair's shadow, and he still became what he is, which I think speaks volumes.
That's true.
Yeah.
How many of you have raised a son? What boy at 13 years old isn't utterly, preposterously, intolerably horrible?
Yeah.
I
look back on. I haven't read The Lesser Devil, but I can look back on book one and say Crispin was simply, he hit that moment between 13 and 15 where you don't want to know this kid.
The best thing about it, I found, was and there's an interesting story too. There's lots of action, more action than I even thought there would be. There's tons of action in this one, and there's some life-threatening, combat and that kind of thing that goes on. But also the main thing for me that I took from it, in terms of relevance to the series as a whole, is how both Crispin and Hadrian in Empire Silence totally misread each other. Like you get this voice of Crispin where I really just wanted to say goodbye, and it just went really badly, when Hadrian left, right? And Hadrian ended up beating him up, in Empire of Silence. And there's this, I just wanted my older brother to love me, or and he never could say that, he was coming across as an idiot. And I feel like he also doesn't understand the degree to which Hadrian actually did want Crispin to be a brother that he was close to as well. It's like they're, ships in the night or whatever, bypassing.
Their father played them off against each other.
Yeah, and then
their father played them against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing you're going to see if you watch through this series is there's one hot button that Hadrian has that he cannot control. That is piss on his girlfriends.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He never, ever outgrows that hot-headed impulse.
Yeah. And that was the thing that Crispin did wrong, was he threatened what's her name, who actually reappears in the pilot. She reappears in the Lesser Devil. So her role there, she's much older, and of course because she's not an aristocrat, she's gotten quite a bit older. Yeah, Kira, thank you, Kira. Or Kyra. I think that in the audiobook it's pronounced Kyra. So
good memory, Jake.
Good memory, Jake. Yes, thank you.
I have to say, I was very lucky, Jake. Jacob was not horrible at 13. Jacob is.
You're just saying that because I'm here. It's okay.
No, Jacob was never horrible. I have to say that. But there's so much to love about this novella. I love kind of the take on the Seven Samurai. I love Crispin growing into a different kind of leader than his father, even though he's never left his father's side, which is, in some aristocratic settings, unusual. So I really think this speaks volumes to his character. I love charting somebody coming to terms with their ideas of faith and organized religion in their work, and what that means and how that fits and what it has to say to us. And there's a lot going on here for a slight novella that I really appreciated.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other anyone want to say anything else about The Lesser Devil before we get into our real spoilers for Howling Dark? Okay, this is it for real, guys. This is it for real. So we are doing spoilers, full spoilers for the entirety of Howling Dark now. And so anything is up for grabs. Although I do want to take the conversation as kind of a 5-act thing, because I do think you can kind of do that. You have Rustum in the early stages, with each stage, by the way, getting bigger and more important here, because the climax of this is incredible. But you have Rustum, where you have the Painted Man and all that going on. And then you have March Station, where basically Antonius Brevin gets them a ride on the extra Solarians and all that they encounter. They get them a ride on the next portion, which is the Enigma of Hours, where Hadrian has his encounter with, was it Jari? That gives him his sort of prophecy or whatever, where this guy who has encountered the microorganisms that are the deep, and he has the ability to see the past or the future or whatever. So this is where Hadrian first is told that he's broken behind and forward, like his river he's been broken essentially, which I take to mean what happens to Hadrian later in this, but also what happened to him in Empire of Silence, where he just shows up on Imesh, and we don't know really how he got there. So I'm assuming he may have even died, and in a way that is similar to what happens in this book, he got put back in play by the Quiet. Maybe I'm just assuming
he broke from his past, and he's now broken from his future.
Yep. So he's broken. He's one broken dude, and he gets his name Hadrian Half-Mortal in here too as well, because of all this. But after March Station, Enigma of Hours, and then Vorgosos, and then Vorgosos is where things really get crazy. But it's not even the craziest part, because we get what happens on the Demiurge, which is, of course, the ship that Karn Sagara has. So that's where things really go down. So let's take it in those 5 parts, starting with Rustum and the Painted Man, who I thought you couldn't get weirder or crazier than the Painted Man, but it gets weirder and crazier.
He keeps blowing the bubble of weird, bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's stage 1.
Until you're just no longer in the fields, not even close.
I mean, it is, you are leaving behind the familiar here. That is for sure. Yeah.
I read an article recently that said the entire computing capacity of the human brain goes on, 12 volts? And it's thousands of times more powerful for computing power than any of their data centers that are eating how much power. So where is the temptation going to stop to not use the organic interface of the human brain to power some of this frightening stuff that's coming at us?
And is he human? Is he a human? He is, referred to as, what do they call the people who've been genetically...
he's extra, but he's also a chameleon. He can take on the appearance of anyone
How much humanity can we measure that? How much humanity is left in a creature like the Painted Man?
Well, it was a very king-like scenario. It was like a tea house, and suddenly it turns into this horror show. It's like taking the ordinary and blowing it inside out. That whole scene was just frightening with those SOMs coming at him and coming at him and coming at him.
And there were humans who had been made into machines, and that was disturbing right there. Yeah. We also lose Gen in the conflict with the Painted Man, unfortunately, and there's and
that was the scene where Hadrian admits flat out that he will use the story and the lie to further his ends, that it's more powerful than the truth.
Yep, the guy who gave him his name, Your Radiance, his nickname, right? Again, it was a great character. It was a little sad. No, I thanks for the help, guys. But I'm trying to figure out the name of the people who are not seen as Palatines, but they're seen as basically like the sex slaves and the ones that are
they use
essentially
the same term in Red
they're
Rising.
seen as like almost toys. They're seen as servants or what have you. Like what's her name? The Green Lady is called that all the time, and it's like it's insulting. What does anyone remember what that thing is? Homunculus. Thank you.
Homunculus. Yeah.
Ty Reed's got it for me. Thank you. Homunculus. So that's an interesting term in and of itself. Too, that they would use the word homunculus for these creatures or people. But why? And the homunculus, we've seen this before in Empire Silence, they look at Hadrian as one of them, right? Because he's been genetically enhanced as well. And they're kind of right, aren't they? What do you think?
Yeah, well, you either go for the machine or you go for what can be done biologically. Neither side has an ethical boundary. Not at all. It's been blown past 100 times.
That fits. We're going to get to the demiurge. Yep.
It's biomechanics or eugenics. Neither is a good path.
No, and it's a really gray area to try and draw that line and say which is correct and which is not.
We're not drawing that line. You can now genetically clone your pet.
Yep. Oh, I mean the Empire.
And they don't give a damn. The people who do that don't give a damn at what it does to the animals that they're using to gestate those things. It's horrifying. Yeah. And you can see that for the 1%, it's no step at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Between what you would do for an animal to what you would do to a person.
I agree.
It's that theme and that question of ambition, right? I mean, such a siren song. And if you only had more time, what could you accomplish? And that immortality, that siren song of, if I could just stick around for longer, if I could.
Did you catch the moment where Hadrian erased that boundary? He refused to sell his genetic code and his blood to get his passage.
That's on March Station.
But he was perfectly fine selling the aliens' blood.
He feels a little guilty about it.
A little, but not enough. Not even
for long.
not even for a second. What he wanted to accomplish was the means did not matter. The ethical line got erased.
Yeah. Well, he admits that too.
He does. He does.
Self-aware enough. Yeah.
But then he blows past it. You never see him feel odd about it again later. It's like a momentary, this isn't a good idea. I wouldn't do it for me, but.
Yeah.
But how many things did he sell down the river to get to where he got?
Yeah.
And then he got sold down the river big time.
For sure.
So the whiplash hit, and it hit hard.
Yep. Well, I mean, and he multiple times he uses Tamaran in that manner. First to give the blood to Antonius Brevin, the extrasolarian, who gets them a ride aboard the Enigma of Hours. And later he tries to use, of course, Tamaran is, he's aware, he wants to get reunited with his people. But I had sympathy for this character. There's a moment later on when Karn Sagara essentially says, okay, I'm taking this hostage of yours and now he's mine. And Tamaran is simply saying, I just want to get back to my people. And I felt really bad for him, there. Just trying to get back to my people. And Hadrian does use him multiple times to get to what he wants to do. And is he doing this in a way that is virtuous because he's trying to make peace between humanity and the Cielsen, and that ambition overrides doing some shady things along the way? Or is he doing it because he's ambitious?
The other thing that you don't know is how many cultural boundaries he's blowing up on the Cielsen side, because they really don't have a grasp of that culture at all yet in this book.
So important. Yeah, the cross-cultural communication is severely lacking there. Cross-species communication, in this case, Good. Any other thoughts on Rustum? What happens there before we move on to the March Station portion?
It's such a sequence of magnifying glasses, magnification, where, and Rustum, it's what will you sell out for one person? And by the time you come to the final layer, how many people would you sell out?
Yeah.
How many people did Pisander sell out to get what he wanted?
Yeah.
So the whole issue starts small and it just gets out of control, magnified in mind-blowing ways.
Yep.
The envelope keeps breaking and you keep going, how much further can this go? And Ruocchio did not flinch.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's actually, I think we can move on even to the Enigma of Hours, where Hadrian encounters this Jari guy and has this bizarre prophecy thing made of him, the guy who had encountered this microorganism called the Deeps. And now this is not the same thing as the Quiet, nor is it the AI, the Americani AI that we meet later, Brethren. But these entities of like super intelligent entities that can live in apparently...
that gave me Discovery vibes, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is crazy. This stuff is amazing. But
great minds think alike.
They're coming to us from the future because they're outside of time and all that stuff. I mean, really cool stuff. But we do get some important messages about Hadrian, prophetic stuff in that encounter. So any thoughts on what happens there from the Enigma of Hours, guys? We got a little thing here from Mick Scarfield.
Just listening to you go on through these acts, it's like, and the way Janny's describing it is like, oh, it's the envelope explodes, magnified. It's like, doesn't this like have such a feel of like the Iliad or the Odyssey? It's like they're journeying somewhere, and it's like one episode after another, and it's like we slide a prophecy in here, and it's like, I mean, just listening to it. Go over it now, it's like, wow, has that kind of vibe. It
has such
structure.
A scary foothold in the present. That's what got me all the way through this series. Just got to me, because science fiction has a habit of saying what if, but this did it times 1,000.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, we talked about Hrothgar earlier, Mick Scarfield. we had to get that out of the way right away. But
that was 12 minutes, 5 seconds for those keeping
that
score.
Is Antonius Brevin's Raven Hrothgar, which was a cool little thing. I think he, it was definitely some kind of enhanced little creature there that he was using as another pair of eyes, perhaps even.
It kept saying no.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a voice,
maybe they should have listened.
Yeah, right. There's some wisdom there.
So okay, let's move on then to. And I remarked earlier how my feeling right away was that in reference to Hadrian being broken earlier was whatever happened to him. I don't know if we ever do find out. Don't tell me, because I haven't read it, but I'll find out. Do we ever find out what happens to him on Imesh, how he gets there, what happened to the crew, the smugglers who were supposed to be getting him to where he was supposed to go? We don't know. But I have a strong feeling that the Quiet must have been involved in keeping him alive then as well. And then and we'll talk about what the Quiet does in this book later. But let's talk about Vergosos, where things get really crazy, where we finally
Creepy.
the undying
Creepy.
Karn
Yeah.
Sagara himself, one of the
Yes.
most incredible characters I've read in literature, to be honest.
Love
Vibes of
Karn Sagara.
Alien all
Love
over it.
Karn.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean,
All those
this,
dark corridors and those creepy and the stuff coming out of the water and the very alien vibes taken
Yeah.
to the max.
Yeah, that's
And he
that,
just
that's that
embodies all
Inferno
this-
thing.
these themes we've been talking about of ambition and immortality and the
Yes.
merging of human and machine and just so much and
And
what's fundamental to humanity. Yeah,
right, and the hubris, the of I can make these calls, I can make these decisions, I stand above, I can, understand what's happening and respond to it. But if I don't have time, I'm not able to. Like the pure hubris of that. I've lived this long, I've amassed this much knowledge. I have
Not
to
only
do this.
Yeah, but also the whole creeping out thing of the blending of the myth, the legend, the reality, because the myth having the seed of truth in it, and how the two get altered by our minds and by our distance in history and by our retelling of stories,
Yeah.
and going back to what this thing actually is. And I also had to wonder, was Sagara's name a tribute to Michelle Sagara West, who's a writer? Don't know. I don't know if any of you have ever read any of her works.
No.
Yeah, I'm listening to the audiobook, so if I'm saying it wrong, then apologies. I don't know how else to say it, but how do you guys pronounce the name? Karn Sagara?
Karn Sagara.
I
say
thought
Karn
it was
Sagara.
Sagara. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, it
Rickon does
also
change his
has a-
pronunciation of things throughout the series.
Did he deliberately put Saga in that name?
yeah.
We'll
Well,
have to
I
ask
mean,
him.
he is the. We do hear of him in Empire of Silence. We get the myth behind him when he was a lad and he was, forced to become something bigger and face enemies and whatnot. And then we meet the actual figure 15,000 years later. And it's just incredible what he becomes. And this quest for immortality is the person, that youth, assuming there's any truth to this legend, is that person at all there anymore? Like,
Right.
I mean, we all know that you and I, just normal people, all of our cells are replaced every decade or whatever. I mean, depending on what part of your body. I mean, you're not the same person you were 5, 10, 20 years ago. You're not. But this dude, 15,000 years, and he's, of course, got all these little variants of himself, his little clones going on. And can you take your consciousness? What is the nature of consciousness? Can you take your consciousness and implant it in a new body like that? I mean, is it really even the same guy, or is it some monstrosity that is the accumulated result of thousands of years of trying to defy mortality? But it's just a warped creature. It's not him anymore, is it?
Yeah. And what is the cost of trying to harness the power of reincarnation like that over the course of 15,000 years? Like, Karn's intelligence is on a level that is so inhuman, but he's also so conniving and lost a lot of touch of humanity. Karn has no empathy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much about Karn that is just no longer human because of the choices that he's made.
Yeah, that's
What is human?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. That's what I was
Right.
going to say. Forget about the ship. That if you replace a plank here or there over time, like how much of the original ship is there, like just his existence through this amount of time and the choices he's made and decisions he's made, that elongated lifespan has made him something other than humanity.
But
Something other
what
than
person
humanity.
in this book, any of these people, is actually human at all anymore, except the very base level, what they call the plebeians?
Us schmucks.
Because the
Yeah.
aristocrats have evolved far beyond that. They don't even get pregnant. They aren't even birthed,
Yeah.
So everything is permutated into something else and evolved.
Look at this, guys. So just watch a video about Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
I don't know who he is, but the billionaire who's trying to live forever, and Neuralink, the company trying to create chips for people's brains to interface with replacement limbs. So there you go, where we've got people trying to do this already. And just the relevance of this story is incredible, you know.
But it's interesting, too, for me. It's like, isn't Karn Sagara, even at this early stage of Hadrian's journey, isn't that kind of like a funhouse mirror of you know, of where he's going? If he's willing to make these kind of choices, I mean, we know. I mean, no spoilers. We know he's a Sun Eater. We know he makes these huge moral, massive choices of genocide on his own shoulders because he feels like that is the right call. Isn't Karn Sagara just a brief view of his future when you're talking about a broken person?
Yeah, it's incredible. Just an amazing character. And the way he has all these eyes floating around all the time, and he's watching you in every single creature of his, like the one that he tries to tempt Hadrian with, the sex slave, who is, I don't know if she's robot or if she's a homunculus or exactly what, but he sees out of her eyes, and there's that creepy moment after she's tried to seduce Hadrian, and Hadrian's like, okay, Karn, I know you're in there. And then Karn's voice comes out of this woman who's been trying to seduce him. He's like, ha, 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 you know? And it's like, whoa, this is creepy stuff. Yeah. But
The
he does
ultimate voyeur.
Yeah, he's very voyeuristic, but it also, I think, really gets to the idea of what is consciousness, you know, and what are you? And the idea that, you know, we think of ourselves as being individuals, but clearly Karn Sagara's arrived at a point where he doesn't respect individuality any longer. Like he literally takes away the consciousness of his offspring, his clones, Suzaha and Ren, and because of a little bit of an accident there at the end of things, he ends up in both of them now. But he's still Karn Sagara there at the end. You know, it's just wild stuff. It's really wild stuff.
Yeah. Is he of one mind? Will they go different ways? Will they become what happens? Yeah, all these questions.
Start fighting, right?
All these questions, absolutely.
Yeah. Wild stuff. Okay. So yeah, just an incredible character. Hats off to Ruocchio for inventing this character. Other things though, he's not it. There's Father Calvert, right? There's Calvert, the guardian there in the where they have all the I forget what they call him, but he's one of the not immortals, but there's a word for what he is. He's not the Undying. That's Karn Sagara, but he's the next step down, I guess. But he's also a machine / is there any humanity left in him? He's pretty despicable. And then, of course, we have to talk about Brethren. We have to talk about Brethren.
There's a character.
There's a character, one of the Americanii. So AI, this feels kind of scary right now, but humanity went a bit far with AI, which then sort of took us and said, okay, I'm going to make little tools out of these humans, and took like organic tissue, because we actually, our brains have thousands and millions of like lots of circuitry here, right? So we become the tools of the AI, and you get a lot of backstory, learning about the how humanity just about got wiped out in a sense, and there were maybe 10,000 of us in the universe that weren't at the mercy of these Americanii and all of that. But Brethren's encounter with Hadrian, that is just top-notch stuff. Your thoughts? How about you, Dylan? What are your thoughts on the encounter between Hadrian?
Yeah, Dylan.
Brethren, what's going on there?
Oh no, you've put me on the spot. I didn't get to this in my reread, and it's been 2 years since I read those parts.
Yeah,
I don't know if I have enough to add to your great minds already. So
I'm sure you got something.
Oh yeah, you do.
It's cool, Dylan. It's cool.
It's crazy stuff. Just to jog your memory a bit. So Brethren tells Hadrian a lot of stuff. He reveals a lot of stuff to him in that encounter. And Hadrian is under the water. He's under the water, and he's being wrapped by all these hands that this weird amalgamation of flesh and machine and whatever this brethren is. It's not, again, it's not one entity. It's become something much bigger than that, right? But it basically gives him his future, and he sees these visions again of himself and this Hadrian that will be. And I think that's where you get the first time mentioned his name, Hadrian Half Mortal, right? When he's being worked on by brethren. But yeah, his brethren. Let me ask this to everybody, and Dylan, you can answer first if you want. But what's his motive here? Like, what does he want? I mean, these things just about took over the universe at one time. Karn Sagara seems to think of it as his big, dangerous pet, in a sense, that it can't leave Vorgosos because it's just too immense. It has to live in the water, I guess. But it still seems like who's really in charge here? Is it Karn Sagara? How does he have this thing leashed? And are these Americanii things going to be a threat going forward? You got to think that they're a big player here still, even though they were nearly wiped out at one point. So I don't know. Any thoughts at all on brethren?
Hit it, Dylan.
Go for it, Dylan.
It's really hard to talk about this without remembering which thing comes up in which book.
Okay, so I'm actually I'm glad to hear that, because I wanted to see more of this. So
Well, remember this, and this is not a spoiler because this does get mentioned. Brethren does say at one point in Howling Dark, "You will meet me again one more time."
yeah,
Yes,
that's
yes.
right, that's right.
Yes.
And they can see the future, right?
Yeah.
Thinking about, like, isn't this the part where, okay, if we're really thinking about, this is reminding me of the Iliad or the Odyssey or something. I mean, this is the point where our hero gets in front of the pantheon, right? A twisted pantheon as it is with Karn Sagara and brethren, but it's almost like, we've got one pantheon that is beaten out and enslaved this other pantheon, and like you were saying, it's like how they're not really related to Marlowe and how things become twisted over time in these stories.
Right.
Like the Americanii, like that's America's AI. That
That's what I figured.
That's America's AI, and it's submerged because if you look at like Janny was talking about, resources going to these huge AI farms, and it's like they have to be practically submerged to keep them cool enough. So here's America's AI submerged. It's like there's so many parallels and so many weird things going on here, and then
it's a massive brain. It can outcompete any human being.
Absolutely.
And when you think we currently have no restraints, or very few restraints on AI, because we're all scared. Oh, the Chinese are going to have an AI that outstrips ours, so we just gotta forge ahead. No seatbelt.
It's a few people kicking that wheel. Sorry, it's a few people who are fanning that, and I think it's just hubris, and they're using that as an excuse to get people to agree with them.
There's the hubris.
Sorry, but I think it's absolutely, let's let these horses out of the barn and see how fast they'll gallop.
Yep.
And don't give a damn what they trample on the way.
I appreciate that, Daniel. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The new Sun stuff is everywhere here.
Yeah.
It's, but he does his own thing with it. That's for sure. I mean, in the Book of the New Sun too, there is a notion of one entity having many, memories of many. Let's say that's a notion that comes from Book of the New Sun as well. That the idea of consciousness being something that can be shared. We think of ourselves as individuals, but if your consciousness gets swallowed by someone else, and there's 100 other consciousnesses put into that entity, what is that now? But
I love that we have Karn Sagara. It's almost like Prometheus being captured and used. Like Karn Sagara, the new pantheon, has enslaved and captured the Titan and is holding it in the demiurge for very particular reasons. There's things that he can do, brethren, that he needs, that nothing else can. So
That's
he's
true.
basically
You are not
chained to the
told-
rock.
Yeah, you are not told in this
Yeah.
book what Karn Sagara's high ground, moral high ground is. You don't know.
Right.
Hadrian thinks he knows, but
But
no.
the terrifying thing is that if you do have a creature in your basement that is just, this amalgam of human tissue that is so hyper intelligent that it can basically calculate the future, what else can that thing do? Why is it locked away?
And he has its weapons on the Demiurge. Like he has Americani nukes or whatever it is. They don't really understand it even. It's that advanced, the technology. So that's scary, I think.
There's a reason to be scared.
Yeah, good call again, Mick Scarfield. I mean, that is definitely in the Matrix as well. Humans as bioelectricity. Yeah.
This is literally the ultimate horror book.
Yeah. And
at least from my standpoint.
Yeah, and how it I think it's in this book is how they used the actual cell divisions of humans to just continually go and build the cancers and build the tumors to keep them going and everything.
Well, and those creepy things that Karn Sagara had, they swiped Hadrian's blood anyway, and they got Valkos too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So everything he tried to avoid, he got nailed with anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's a big thumbs up. Absolutely. I've been asked if this is going back to our discussion, Dylan, for Dear Dr. Fantasy. And I asked Dylan if Sun Eater had interesting themes to think about.
Just a couple.
I guess we have an answer to that. For sure. And here's a nice comment on Lesser Devil. So how it opened me up to the universe. He also showed us that again. Hadrian, like Fitz Farseer, sometimes has trouble with the people around them. Very true. Mm-hmm. You can't always rely on Hadrian.
You can't. He doesn't listen to Switch. If he had listened to Switch all the way along, he would have predicted what happened.
Yeah, and I felt we weren't there yet, but I was very heartbroken about Switch being dismissed and Hadrian telling him go away. That was a tough scene to witness.
He doesn't like people who don't agree with him. He got rid of Jinan too.
Yeah. Yep. Jinan did not agree with him. Of course, she was a little more forceful about her disagreement. She tried to kind of beat him up, and she did beat him up a bit there too when they were reunited. Gave him a fat lip and a bruised eye or something like that. But
yeah, there's a bit more Alistair in there than he thinks. When his authority
and a bit
is
more Crispin too, of the things he said he didn't like about Crispin.
100%. Yeah. So, okay.
That's a Native American quote. You make a desert and call it peace.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Karn declaring, this is from Scarfield, you call this empire, you make a desert and call it peace.
That's a Native American quote.
Yeah. Okay. The Caledonian chieftain. Okay. So there's a Tacitus possible reference too. Yeah. I was broken up about poor Switch.
Jacob hated that.
That made me so mad.
Yeah.
When I read it.
Well, I mean, he has just to take the other side of it, to be the devil's advocate, as it were. Get it? Because Hadrian's a devil.
I'm with you.
All right. Yeah. To be the devil's advocate here, he has a point that can he rely on Switch in the future, or is he going to do something like this again? Right, where he kind of did sort of, and we'll get to this now. We might as well, because I think we can transition to what happens on the Demiurge. Is Hadrian wrong in the sense that it's because of Switch that Basander Lin, becomes and the Empire shows up, much to the annoyance of Karn Sagara, and they inject themselves into this whole thing, and they're playing a different game. Even Rain Smythe didn't know that you had orders from Titus Houtman that Basander Lin was carrying out, and to both they were trying to take out both the Cielsen and Karn Sagara, but Karn Sagara proved to be a little too wily. That's like you're in the middle of a negotiation, and you're going to blow up their ship that's pretty low in a way, isn't it? That like you're in the middle.
Everybody betrays everybody.
Extremely low.
Yeah.
It's very. That's a pretty.
That's
that's a
this
bad
guy is
guy.
really good at making really messy fights.
That's a villain thing.
And this was
isn't
a
it?
very
Isn't that what the
messy
bad
fight.
guys
And
do?
I don't think forgiveness is a very big word in Hadrian's vocabulary.
Yeah. Well, I guess
Because you
don't
can
become an
forgive
empire.
somebody and not trust them.
Mm-hmm.
A stolen empire. You don't
True.
become an empire like that by being nice to everyone, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh, you have no idea. Wait till you read on.
But the interesting thing about Switch for me is that as we're watching this journey of hate, and like we said, we start off with this idealist thinking, I'm going to change the world, make it better in this war, this centuries-long war. And then we get to a point where he has to start on this pretty dark descent to be a Sun Eater by the end of this series. And one of those things is you can't have your friends near you that know you better than yourself and would speak to you as your own conscience. Like he's
Well,
on
I
this
think-
journey. He has to get, for the story to work somewhat, Switch has probably got to go.
Did you catch
yeah.
the irony on that? Switch started out as a very, very terrified, spineless, abused, unable to stand up for himself character. And when he
Yes.
finally grew a spine and finally stood up for himself and finally stood on his 2 feet, Adrian couldn't tolerate him anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that began before the big scene at the end.
It did. That's true. That's true.
I think part of Switch standing up was that it was still based in fear. He was afraid of what was going to happen to Hadrian. So that was what made him stand up. But I do think emotionally Hadrian knew, this journey is going to get worse from here, likely, potentially.
Yeah.
So if you're getting afraid now and kind of betraying me and not following my orders, then you shouldn't be here for your own safety, so I'll push you away.
But Hadrian's also a wee bit of a hypocrite there. Can we count the betrayals? I think if for example, if he were to go to Genon, for example, and complain about Switch betraying him, I think Genon might have a point to make, that Hadrian is not always the one who should be talking about betrayal.
He kept Basander's sword when it rightly should have gone to Switch.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep. After their duel,
So
when
that's
he
it to me,
cuts off Sanderlin's
He
hand.
has a
Yeah.
bit of an edge to his personality. He's not the perfectly compassionate, fair, just, idealistic person that he makes himself out to be. It's clever. Ruocchio does it very, very well because it just sort of slides by the way people lie to themselves. 'Cause people lie to themselves.
Right.
And it's really, really well handled in this book.
Yeah, that's a moment we have to talk about when things.
Oh,
go-
yeah, he killed the kid, right?
And the death of Nobuta.
Well, this is why I was shaking my head. No, you said is a bit of a hypocrite. This moment is everything.
Yep.
This moment is everything.
When he
Not
kills
only-
Nobuta, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Not only because he chose to do it, but because of the reaction. You've had this whole détente. You've been trying to even over in the language bridge. That we don't even have words for peace. We can't even come to a consensus on language to even understand what we're talking about here.
Right.
And he started out as his idealist to end that he was going to end the war. This was his whole reason for being, his whole reason for going out there. And then when you come to this point, he's already on this bit of a descent to where he does find the connection. They love their kids too. They feel the same way about their offspring as we do. The grief,
Yeah.
the tragedy that you see from the father after he makes that call, but he still does not understand. This is the tragedy of Hadrian. He's blinded by his own ideals and what he feels is right over and over and over again. Even when what he thought was right a week and a half ago, he could see right in front of his face. But he's moved on from that, and he doesn't look
He
back.
didn't
He doesn't
start
evaluate.
with killing Nobuta. He started by killing one of Karn's cigars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it
He
just
also
So,
lied.
it's like I said, he takes one little sliding step and then it magnifies and then
Yeah.
it magnifies. And he pretty much, to my mind here, ensured that the war was going to continue.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
lies.
He
It's
sealed
definitely
it.
Sealed.
He
Yeah.
sealed
He
the fate.
lies about he justifies what he does to Nobuta by saying, well, they did this to Rain Smythe, but they didn't do that to Rain Smythe until after.
Right.
Now, they were killing some of the human hostages, and that's
Yeah.
when he reacted. But what he uses
tries
in his
to-
mind to justify it happened after he killed.
He tries to salve that wound and go, I can never look at him the same. We can never look back. We can never go back. There's some, but it's like they just exhibited what you wanted them to exhibit. They just exhibited love for their own offspring. They just exhibited trying to understand moving forward in the future through their offspring into mortality in a way that we all understand. Like there is ground here. There's ground that you could find common and try to go back and try and do what your initial
The
mission
slippery
was.
slope of the flexible ethic.
Yes.
And we see it happen in our society, and it's mystifying to me. But it happens the minute somebody takes a stand and polarizes hard one way.
Yes.
So many times they end up becoming the opposite of what they start out to espouse.
Yes.
Yeah, so true.
Once
what an
you
amazing-
polarize, you lose your ability to
Yes.
see in balance.
That's right. And this amazing character he's created that we find ourselves as the series goes on rooting for and loving and being all in with, but at the same time, it's so complex that it's like you have to see the hypocritical slippery slope that Janny was just pointing out. I mean, it's really beautifully done.
And I got to get the thoughts of everybody on this. Hadrian dies. He gets his head cut off. He is
It
decapitated.
was told you on the first page of the first book.
Aranata Otiolo completely mushes his head after
Yep.
he decapitates him too. And then the Quiet intervenes, and the Quiet, and he shows him this vision of himself, or telling him, get up. That's his father's voice all the time too. Get up. And
Switches his arms too. It's like a mirror image.
and now he's got the wrong arm, but when he goes back to the water, he finds the right arm in there still. So it's really weird. And and he has this discussion with the Quiet, and he says, "Why are you doing this? Why are you using me? And what do you want?" And it says, "To exist, to exist." And so Hadrian is its pawn. He is a tool for this super intelligent thing coming from the future, influencing. Okay, this is just crazy stuff. I mean, yeah, that's good, Scott. Who hasn't lost their head at times?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. And yeah, we talked about that earlier, how the same thing happens in Empire Silence, where on Emesh, he wakes up and he doesn't realize it then, but he probably was dead before that waking up happened. But yeah, this is crazy stuff going on here. And there's a sword coming out of the water. Yeah, good stuff.
Lady of the Lake.
But is it really the wrong arm? Yeah, this is crazy. And then he kills, revived Hadrian, does it back to Aranata. He decapitates him.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on Hadrian's death? And I know you guys have to kind of seal your lips in some ways because you know stuff I don't, because I haven't read further in the series yet. But anything you want to say about this whole like crazy scene where everybody's getting shot to pieces? And
I wonder how much he's playing with a Gene Wolfe on that one too. If you've ever read his Greek history, history-related fantasy where the guy gets a head wound, gets whacked, and you can't tell if he's crazy, if he's communing with the gods, if he's just outright dissociated. And Gene Wolfe never explains it. He never does, if you've read beyond just Book of the New Sun. So you have to wonder at some point when you're reading this incredible series where all of these themes are coming to play, how much of it is real?
Yeah. Any thoughts from Dylan or Jacob or John on the resurrection and anything going on in the battles? We could talk about. I mean, the Cielsen are done dirty, by
They
the
truly
Solar
are.
Empire.
One thing that I thought, and it's been, like Dylan said, it's been a while since I read this, so I may be misremembering things, but I vaguely have the memory of Hadrian coming back and making a big deal about like the mirror image of his switched arms. You're like, oh, this is crazy. I've got this new arm, but it feels different. And, like, you also have a new head. Like, do you have a new brain? Are you a new person? Are you still the same Hadrian? Like, these were the questions that I had at the time. And, you know, metaphorically, sure, it's a new Hadrian. He's been reborn and all of that. But are there bigger implications there?
Which means he has more in common with Karn Sagara than maybe he realizes, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, there's that mirror of his future a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love the quiet. I think it's in this book where the quiet is, you know, it's like you say, a pawn. Why me? Why would you do this? You're the closest to the square. Like it's expediency in a lot of ways, you know, like if this is my game and you're just happen to be the closest to this diagonal square for me. So, but it definitely brings up these questions of, like you said, resurrection, Dr. Chase, like these chosen one, these questions of faith, these questions of level of pantheon, because we've gone from brethren to Karn Sagara to the quiet. I mean, you continue to, there's always more than is dreamt of in your reality. It just continues to move upward and upward and upward.
And I love that it talks to him like Gibson, you know, that it's his Gibson voice. And then you realize, oh, back in Empire of Silence, all those times when he's chatting with Gibson, that also could be the quiet, you know, that it's talking to him maybe more than he had realized. Because he's always got Gibson's voice going on.
Yeah.
Is that the quiet manipulating him? You know,
preparing him,
preparing him, pushing him to go somewhere. Yeah. So, anyone else want to say anything about this crazy scene that ends this? This is an incredible ending.
This guy writes a really good fight scene.
Yeah.
He can make it go on and on and on and on and on, and somehow you just still are on the edge of your seat. Not many writers can do that.
Yeah.
It's still so cinematic with the lighting and the atmosphere of the ship that they're on and traveling through the hallways.
Thoughts with Valka in this book. They were locked in a cell for 7 years and never did in one grope. Come on.
Although they finally now they're a couple, and there's a little bit of fun teasing at the end. The other their companions are like, yeah, it's about time, you know. So I was gratified. I knew it was eventually we're going to get there because of the way Hadrian talked about Valka, and even as early as Empire of Silence. But it was like, okay, finally, okay. And you knew that there was something, maybe because Jinan and Valka didn't like each other very much, so there was a bit of a jealousy thing going on there. But yeah, finally, they're out in the open, I guess. That was nice. That was nice that they got to kiss and all that. So.
Yeah, but I love this about the ending too, is that you have, like I was talking about, that friend that knows you better than yourself, and he's gone. That your inner conscience voice could be gone now that you've since switched away. But at the end of this book, what does he have? He doesn't necessarily have friends. He has disciples. He has a group of people that saw him beheaded and come back.
Even Basander Lin has become a cultist.
Even Basander Lin. He has true believers. He has disciples. He has a cult. You know, and isn't that going to be dangerous when you already have a character that thinks he knows the right path, even if it has to run over someone else, you know?
Yeah, there it is. There's a scene. Yeah. Hadrian, half mortal. Yeah. So, yeah, that's some crazy, crazy stuff that goes down there. But I also want to talk about the scene where he talks to Titus Hauptmann, and he gets the news that William, the emperor, wants to see him. And Hadrian very quickly goes from defiant to kind of an ass kisser there.
He has not shed the shell of his beginnings.
No, I mean the ambition. I mean, you're going to be
the cast in the class system. He is not
right.
He has not escaped his origins.
He falls right into that rut. He falls right into it.
He's more of his father than he thinks.
Slap at dad.
Yeah.
He has that thought.
One
of his first thoughts is, "Hey, Dad, look at me now."
No thanks to you.
But again, with the hypocrisy, because Valka always teases him and calls him the barbarian and says, "You're so much like, all your little empire groupies with your culture and your classism." And he says, "Oh, I'm not like them. I'm nothing like them." And the moment the emperor says he wants to see him, "Oh, my liege, of course, yeah, so I'd love to see you."
He becomes a good little Palatine right quick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on? I'm sure we missed a bunch of things, but there are characters that played a role in here that we didn't really get to. We could, I'm sure.
So I want to ask you, Dr. Chase, is it what you expected? Where are you at? 2 books in, what do you think? How is this playing out for you? Did you expect to like it? Are you surprised? What's it like?
I expected to be somewhat more critical of book 1 than I actually ended up being, because I did see a lot of the influences. They're there, but I think there's a quality to the way these influences are incorporated into this story, that they're woven in meaningful ways. And this is an exploration of a lot of great themes here. So I ended up really liking Empire Silence much more than I anticipated I would. And I'm totally in right now with Howling Dark. It's just like, this is wild. This is going for it in a way that reminds me of some of my favorite series, like Malazan is another one where you just see things where it's just like, okay, we're not being shy here. We're just going for it. It's all out. And so I like that. I like that he's really swinging for the fences already here. So I'm all in, really. It's just great stuff.
It never offended me, the amalgamation of influences, because he took the amalgamation of all of the cultural things that we have now and just exploded them into the future and garbled them up every which way from Sunday.
Absolutely.
And reformed that clay into something else that's different. And so to me, it was fascinating. It didn't offend me at all. In fact, I think it's a tribute to the breadth of his vision and the breadth of his mind to be able to do this so successfully.
Yeah. I just find it as such a beautiful love letter to story, because so much of this is happening because of the stories from the past before this empire was born, and its past being prologue. And it's just, I just thought it was one of the beautiful themes about it.
Yeah. We've always stood on the shoulders of giants.
That's it. Yeah.
That always will.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm being asked about predictions here.
Yeah,
I can't wait to hear it.
I have no clue. We're going to meet Emperor William. Okay. And Valka is being convinced to go along because they're boyfriend-girlfriend now. So she's going to travel along. I don't think that's going to be a good thing. I think that Valka is going to be in trouble when they go to the Imperial homeworld, whatever. I forget what it was called, but whatever it was called, it's not going to be a good thing that Valka is going along for this ride here.
She is a heretic.
So that's going to lead somewhere where Hadrian's going to have to choose between his ambition and his loyalty to the Empire and Valka. That's a prediction right there. And Emperor William is going to turn out to be, as our friend Alan from the Library of Alexandria would say, a douchebag. I don't think he's going to be. I don't think Emperor William is going to be the nicest guy. I have a feeling. I just have a weird feeling that he's going to be. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's a decent fella. But the way this empire behaves, so far, I'm not a fan. I feel like the Solon Empire is. They like to make themselves seem like the good guys, like we're the humans. So therefore, when we do evil villain stuff, it's just, well, we're being the good guys, so it's okay, So I feel like, I'm probably not going to like this guy too much. It's going to be.
It's going to parallel so many things in history.
Mm-hmm.
So am I supposed
where
to
every ruler had to fight against in battle? I mean, the Chantry.
Yeah.
They're freaking evil.
Yeah. And based on what I know of the Chantry as well, I'm not a fan. I'm being asked here, do I plan to read Queen Amid Ashes? Is that next? Am I supposed to do that?
You should read that before Demon in White.
Okay. All right. So I got another novella to read before book 3, which is.
You don't have to. I mean, I
You don't
didn't read
have
any of
to.
the small stuff. I read right through the series.
I
It
didn't
does-
read Queen of Mid Ashes.
You will see a little bit about how Hadrian's idea of you cannot negotiate with the Cielsen. They are so inhuman and so different than us and so monstrous. That becomes calcified a bit in Queen of Mid Ashes.
I'm gonna let Dylan decide. Dylan, should I read Queen of Mid
Oh.
Ashes before
Tell him, Dylan.
book 3?
When Marsha went through it, I told her to skip it, but she ended up reading it and saying this wasn't worth it. I wouldn't say you have to, because you just get a great story in Demon Knight anyway. It really is just Hadrian's first interaction with the Cielsen when they see humanity and what they do to the human planets and why they're so monstrous.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say it's necessary.
So it is after Howling Dark,
Yes.
Yeah.
but it's before book 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm getting mixed messages here. It's not that long anyway. So
No, it's a novella. It'll take you, it won't take a lot of time.
not a
How
must
quickly,
read.
how quickly did you read Howling Dark, Philip? How long did it take you?
Well, I've listened to it.
Okay.
So, and I listen on the normal speed. I don't speed it up. So however many hours it is to listen to, that's what it took me. So
Okay.
I think it was like 28 hours.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a long one.
Yeah, it's long. It's a long one. All right. I'm still getting conflicting messages here about Queen of Mid Ashes.
So is there a way to do a poll? That might be the only way to.
Yeah.
You might just have to read and then decide.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm even being told I can read it after Demon in White, although
I'm
chronologically.
sure you absolutely could.
All right, now look at this. Scott is completely confusing me.
There
It's
you
his
go.
favorite piece of Ruocchio's writing. Now.
You can't go
Read
against
it.
Scott. You can't go against Scott.
Favorite piece? There's some good books coming up, man.
Well, that's what Scott says. So,
Okay.
right.
I will say you have to be in the right place because it will, and I'm sure you've seen horrific photos at the end of World War II and things like this. It will revisit that type of image.
The series is going to do that to you anyway.
Yeah.
That is true.
Okay.
You're going to see it anyway. You're going to be horrified anyway.
Oh, I'm
Oh, yeah.
sure. I'm sure, based on what I've seen so far. But we should be horrified by some of these things. Honestly, we should be more horrified right now than we are about some of these things that are happening right now. But we're seeing them portrayed, whatever this is, 20,000 years in the future or whatever. But yes, hopefully more people will read this and think, yes, I should be more horrified right now.
The people who are doing it don't read.
You're right.
You're
Yeah.
probably right, Janny.
Yeah.
Only the best people read books. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm gonna see if we have any final thoughts from you guys on Howling Dark, and I want to thank you all for being here. But final thoughts.
I'll quickly jump in and
Yes.
say the first short story in Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1, it mentions array, and that is brought up in every single book you'll read going forwards, I believe. It's a very important alliance is shown there that plays a big role in the rest of the series. So you may just want to read that first one. All the other short stories are fun, and you will get little references to them throughout, but
Okay.
I wouldn't say they play as big a role as that first one.
Okay.
And then just last thoughts for Howling Dark. Really good quote I just loved, brought up when Hadrian was talking to Khan Sagara for the first time. Firstly, just loved that interaction. Just
Yeah.
Khan having someone like a historian like Hadrian is to talk to, and all the references they were making throughout history. Lovely.
Nice.
And then I just finished reading Malazan, so this quote was just stuck in as well. Wars end, but war doesn't. Just something to keep in mind for the series and whatever books of the series you might be reading. Whether it's
Brilliant.
The first or the last.
Well, and that creepy
Yeah.
flashback where he's walking through the corridors of that place and seeing all of the artwork that was looted from Earth. It's like walking through parts of what the Nazis collected everywhere they went. You know, it's just creepy how much pieces of history and what was revered. And, you know, Carn Cigars kept so many things that were like a museum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Trying
But
to hold on to a little bit of that humanity, maybe.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because what Dylan mentioned, you know, I'm so glad you brought up that interaction, that first meeting, because I feel like Carn Cigarra, there's a piece of him that likes Hadrian because he's also well read and he's
100%.
intellectually curious. So he's somebody who loves stories and that kind of thing. And that's the thing they have in common, right? And Hadrian doesn't realize how much they have in common. But yeah, that's a really cool interaction, that first meeting, for sure.
I think Karn sees a lot of himself in Hadrian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rightfully.
I don't think Hadrian sees a lot of himself in Karn, which he maybe should see more.
Awesome.
Well, and the line was pretty blurred when he wakes up and his head is reattached to his body as to exactly how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's attributed to the quiet, but you didn't see the moving pieces that went on behind the curtain there.
No, I mean, there's so many questions I have about the quiet at this point. And I'm assuming I'm going to learn more as things go along, but one question going forward is how much are they in control really of what's happening? You know, are they the ones that wanted Hadrian to become the Sun Eater, you know, or is this something he does on his own? So yeah, I don't know what their agenda is really, and neither does Hadrian at this point in the narrative. So future Hadrian probably knows more, but the guy who's 1,000 years old and very world weary. One more question here about the prose. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. It's great prose. I love it. I'm a fan of, again, authors who go for it, like the amazing Janny Wurts here. When you have an author who has really distinctive prose that takes chances, is creative, I love it. I absolutely love it. So Ruocchio is great in that regard.
Every line in that book is written with passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whether he's reflecting on the future or reflecting on the past or reflecting on our humanity or the arts, just the raw feeling, the drama of the characters, the drama of the situation, the dramas of the conflicts, the actual grit of the battles. Every line he writes is just so loaded with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love
can't
it.
I can't remember what interview it was from, but I believe Ruocchio has said that writing Howling Dark was, of the entire series, the book that he had the most fun while writing, and I think you can.
Ooh, now I'm really creeped out. He was in that headspace for that long, and he said it was fun.
Well, some of that might have been like, I know he faced a lot of time constraints while he was working on later books.
Freaking ghoul.
Yeah. At least he didn't say that about Kingdoms of Death.
Oh man,
That might have been worse.
I admire people who can do that. It's just not my forte.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of headspace is not my forte. Though, you know, I'll dip my toe into it once in a while, but he went whole hog. You're right. He went for it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So Marjorie wants to know your favorite book of the series, so I'll know which one to look forward to the most. But for me, I've only read the first two, so obviously it's going to be Howling Dark for me at this point. But what about, and feel free, people in the chat, also to answer that question that Marjorie has here. We already have a couple answers. We have a Demon in White fan, and we have a Kingdoms of Death fan. So how about you guys? Dylan, what's your favorite book in the series?
I jump back and forth between Demon in White and Kingdoms of Death.
Okay.
The ending of Shadows Upon Time is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Jacob?
I would say that in my brain, I know that Kingdoms of Death is objectively like the best for me, if I was to look at it that way, but Ashes of Man is my favorite.
Okay. And John, how about you?
I kind of bounce back and forth a bit from Kingdoms of Death and Disquiet Gods. If I was just looking at like the second half of Kingdoms of Death, it wins hands down. But Disquiet Gods is, I think, more of a complete all the way through. Might be more of a complete favorite.
Jake has a toss up between
Just list the whole
Howling
series,
Dark,
why don't you,
Kings of
Jake?
Destiny.
And how about you, Jenny? Do you have a favorite?
I
in
have
these?
to say that each one is my favorite for a different reason,
Okay.
because
that's
the
good.
gut punch on all of them is different. You know, he captured the young man's ideals so well in the first book, and he took so many books that didn't go for the throat and absolutely nailed it. You know, it's better than Dune. He took the concept of Dune and took it to the next level. So I don't really have a favorite, because I can look at each one and say something comes forward that he didn't equal in all of the others.
Hmm.
Yeah. Bald Booktuber is entirely right. It's an amazing thing when you can ask, and this happens anytime this question gets asked, what's your favorite Sun Eater book? It's usually a different answer for everybody in the group.
Yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we've had a pretty good chat about this now. And I want to thank you guys for being along with me on this journey. You guys are fantastic.
It is such a pleasure.
Thank you to everybody in the chat as well. This was just a ton of fun. I'm so glad I'm finally doing this. So, and I got to thank Dylan for pushing me into it.
I pushed you too.
You did. You did.
I did. I told you,
Lots of
Philip,
people
you're
did.
going to love this.
Yep. So I am loving it. I am absolutely all in, and can't wait to find out why you guys love Demon in White and Ashes of Man and all the other ones that you guys all said were the best. All right. Any last words from any of you guys?
Just as the only non-writer here, for anyone that's like loved this discussion and you haven't checked out Adan, Wars of Light and Shadow, or Discovery, there is elements of all of those, like from Howling Dark, that you'll find. Like, I'm listening to Discovery now and looking at things with non-human elements and technological advancement elements. Very interesting. Incredible writing. Wars of Light and Shadow, the most amazing writing you'll find.
So the very best.
The depth of things just constantly unwinding. And then Adan, if you're looking for that religious element and another huge world to dive into, like, if you loved Howling Dark, you love this discussion, you need to check out all of these authors.
Thank you, Dylan. That's
That's extremely kind.
That was
You
very
got
generous
my
of you.
You got my Venmo payment, right, Dylan?
All right. Well, with that act of kindness, we shall leave you all. But thank you, everybody, for showing up. And that is going to be it for us for now. We'll be back in roughly a month, might be a little over a month, but we shall see you then.